Hi everyone, and welcome to my second episode of Balanced.Me. Today I wanted to talk to you about how we can help ourselves through the recovery process, because I feel there are multiple levels of recovery, particularly for those who feel a little bit more stuck than others, or for those people that have been struggling a little bit more longer than other people. It's very easy to fall into a state of fear and worry because you're focusing on what's going on within all the time. So I thought it might be beneficial to create an episode that really goes into detail about the different kind of strategies that really help start the beginning of the recovery journey. So it's my belief that acceptance would be the beginning, or I guess the first level of the recovery process. You're not really going to get anywhere by fighting and hating your symptoms. And look, yes, they are absolutely the worst thing in the world to have, and you're feeling mad that this has happened to you, which is 100% reasonable and justified. However, you're not going to get anywhere if you stay in this stage. I find that the more you push back, the stronger your symptoms will occur. And this is because your symptoms react to stress, and fighting them is a form of stress. So if you think about it, when you're feeling frustrated and upset and all of those negative emotions, when you're feeling that way, that isn't a state of calm. That is a state of stress. So those negative reactions need to be addressed first and foremost. Almost as if you're waving an imaginary white flag and giving in and just saying, look, okay, you're here to stay for a while, so let's try and make this work. And I can hear everybody yelling at me right now, how the hell do you accept these symptoms when they are causing you so much pain and they're ruining your life? You eliminate fear and doubt. Now bear with me, because as I said, there are multiple levels and everyone will be at different stages. So it's up to you to determine where you're at in this journey. So to get rid of doubt, you need to eliminate the worry surrounding your doubt. So you might be doubting that there's something else that could be wrong with you that's causing these symptoms that no one has explored yet. So that may include having all the required tests done, and usually they'll be looking at full blood work, CT and or MRI scan. You could be referred to an ENT or a neurologist for further testing, but generally you would have done all of these tests given that you've got your diagnosis, given that you've gotten your diagnosis of PPPD. So if you've had all of the appropriate tests done and everything has come back fine, then you might need to look at focusing on the next level of doubt, which is that useless little voice inside your head. And you all know which one I'm talking about. It's the one that's trying to convince you that there must be something else wrong with you and that you're going to be stuck like this forever. You need to forget that voice. That voice isn't yours and it's against you. It doesn't want you to grow or succeed. It wants you to stay that way because it's more comfortable for you being in that way, in that position. So eliminate that voice and replace it with a reasonable one that sees the logic in your situation. You've had all the appropriate tests done and they've come back all okay and you're healthy. You're not dying and there's nothing that's going to pop, burst, break, stop working, or there's nothing fatal growing inside of you and you're not just going to drop dead in an instant. You are healthy. And I find the trick here is to not just to tell yourself that you're okay and you're healthy and you're safe, but to also feel it. So your brain is going to respond to how your body feels, Don't forget you're working with an overreactive brain and an overstimulated nervous system. So feeling safe is such a huge factor. That might include things like heat therapy, like laying in bed with a heat pack, light exercises, watching a really funny show or movie, things that will make your body feel less anxious. And I say your body because when your brain receives those rest and digest responses from your parasympathetic nervous system, that will help calm it down. So shifting your focus to go from obsessing about your symptoms to playing more of an active role in controlling your thoughts instead of just allowing them to run wild will absolutely help the acceptance process. They say it takes about 21 to 28 days to create new neuro pathways, so to change your thinking patterns. But realistically, this is a process that may continually need to be practiced throughout your journey, because that little voice inside your head will always be a part of you. It's in all of us, but the more we practice quietening that voice and brushing it off, the better and easier it will become to do over time. So next we want to look at eliminating the fear surrounding your symptoms so you can coexist with them. And look, you're not expected to love your symptoms, but you are expected to coexist with them to make this work. And one technique I'm really fond of, which I find helps immensely in this process, is somatic tracking. And somatic tracking is a technique that helps you to learn how to sit with your symptoms and scary sensations without fearing them or reacting to them, which is what we want. We want our sensations to exist within us and be okay that they are there. It's practiced from like a third person perspective, so where you can observe your symptoms and sensations and just see what they're doing. So you're observing where they're located in the body, the intensity of the feelings, symptoms, and sensations. You're seeing if they move around or if they stay in the same place. And you can even go as far as giving them or allocating them a particular color if you feel that they relate to a specific color. It's a time to get curious about your symptoms and being able to do that in a safe space, like when you're laying down before bed or you're sitting on your favorite couch. And it's a technique that will need to be practiced frequently to start seeing results. And it's something that you might have to come back to every now and again throughout your journey. It's a process that really helps to ground you and to get you out of your head and into your body so you can learn that what you're feeling is okay and safe to feel, that there aren't going to be any repercussions for allowing your symptoms and sensations to completely surface. And this plays such a significant role in the recovery process because it really helps the acceptance process come together. So when you start facing your symptoms and allowing them to exist within you without having a fearful or frustrated reaction, that is eliminating all of that fear and doubt. So you can see how it becomes like a chain reaction. You know, I got to the point where I would have my symptoms come and go sporadically when I was going through these processes myself. And I would literally just shrug my shoulders and say out loud, quietly, I would be like, oh, hello, dizzy feeling, you're here today. And that's it. Just acknowledging its existence, not fighting it, not getting frustrated at it, just acknowledging it and then going about my day being dizzy. And look, this is going to be a difficult thing to accept and put into play, but just like anything, the more you do, the better you get. And look, realistically, at the end of the day, until you change your thinking, you will always recycle your experiences. So I highly recommend you look into somatic tracking. There is a lot of guided somatic tracking videos I have recommended available in the resources section in the PPPD Healing, Recovery and Support Facebook group. So check them out and start practicing. It is definitely well worth it. So we've gone over some different levels of gaining acceptance and working on eliminating that fear and doubt. And one of the other levels that I think is worth discussing is movement. And this is something that you should be working on while moving through the other levels that have just been discussed as well. So one of the characteristics of PPPD is that moving will make you better and not moving will make you worse, to put it simply. So moving good, not moving bad. So that means there are definitely going to be days you will struggle to get up and get on with it because you're feeling lightheaded and dizzy, or you're fatigued, or the world looks and feels icky and scary, and maybe a whole heap of other weird and uncomfortable feelings and sensations that you're experiencing. But it's just one of those things with PPPD where you need to go through it in order to get over it. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. And again, everybody will be at different stages, so it's up to you to determine how you should move forward in this space, and probably even working with a physical therapist if you've been seeing one, so they can help guide you in this space based on your individual level and needs. So I feel VRT is a place to start, particularly when you're in the thick of PPPD and really struggling with dizziness. It will help you to get used to certain movements and motions again, and it helps your brain to adjust to those movements and motions. And what VRT is, it stands for Vestibular Rehabilitation Therapy, and it's practicing repeated movements, eye gazes and activities that expose you to motions and movements that can be triggering. So it's a therapy that will definitely cause you to feel dizzier, but you don't want to create so much extra dizziness that it causes you, that it debilitates you in a way that you can't move for the next week. So it's a therapy you will definitely need to start slow at, to get to know your boundaries and your limits so you can work on building on them. And I find it beneficial in a way that it prepares you for the difficulties that you will be faced when you're exposed to your triggering environments and movements. You will come to recognize how your brain and your body is going to respond to those triggers, so you're better able to respond emotionally. So because now that you know what to expect and you've been practicing how to respond and to keep yourself grounded, it will end up being better for you when you're in those environments. So I also recommend having some breathing strategies in place to also help with grounding while working through those VRT activities, because you will eventually be able to de-escalate any fear response as they are progressing. So some examples of VRT I did was, for an example, I used to throw a tennis ball in the air. Just a small toss in the air, not too high, and catch it. And I would do that for, I don't know, like a minute, let's say. I also walked heel to toe in a straight line while moving my head from side to side. Things like turning in a circle really slowly, and that was a really difficult one to do. That took me a while to master. Eye gazes with head movements was another one. And I didn't necessarily start with all of them. I had to build up tolerance to most of them, which took me months and months to do. And I was doing my VRT every single morning without fail. It became a part of my morning routine. And most times I did it twice a day. And while I was building on these activities, I was becoming more comfortable and confident. And yes, I felt like absolute crap while doing it, and I felt like crap afterwards, but if I felt something needed to be readjusted because I wasn't ready, or if it was too much for me at the time, I would readjust it. And that's the beauty of VRT. You can cater it to, I guess, your level and what you're comfortable with. But the key is to work with it rather than give up on it because it's too hard. It's going to be hard. But you know what's going to be harder? Living the rest of your life like this. So just start at your own pace and build up slowly. It's definitely a process, but you will get there. And for anyone that's a part of the PPPD Healing, Recovery and Support Facebook group, I have put a few VRT recommendation videos in the featured section under the resources tab. There's beginning, intermediate and advanced videos, so you can definitely take a look if you want to and start working on them at your own pace as you feel comfortable. And I'd also like to add, if you do have any concerns whatsoever about starting VRT, please reach out to your consulting doctor or specialist before starting. So while you're working on your VRT, you should also just keep living to the best of your ability. For some people, it might take 3 months to feel better, to feel the benefits of VRT. For other people, it might take 12 months, and for some people, not at all. But again, it all depends on where you are at in your recovery process. So for an example, you're not really going to feel a difference from starting VRT if you're fairly active, because your everyday movement is your VRT. But for the people who are really struggling with the dizziness symptom, holding onto walls and they can't really leave the house and they have limited movement, VRT is a great starting point. So another level I feel that is a part of the recovery process is to stop avoiding and start doing. So that means just living your life. And as difficult and frustrating and arrogant as that might sound, it's the way it is. So exposure is a massive role in recovery. You've got to start saying yes to your triggers and just working with your sensations and symptoms as they come. So because you've been practicing somatic tracking and you've been exposing yourself to triggering movements and environments, you're definitely ready to face other challenges. So stop avoiding the shops, stop saying no to dinners with friends, stop avoiding school or work, and just do it. Whatever you're saying no to, you need to start doing it. And I know what you're going to say, it's easier said than done. Well, yes, it is easier said than done. No one said recovery was easy. They said it can be done. So if it means putting some kind of plan in place to put this in motion, then do it. And that could look like having a meeting with your boss or your principal and having an honest discussion about your condition, the challenges that you face and the potential limitations, and to come up with a strategy that can work well for everyone. It could mean still being able to go out for dinner with friends, but choosing a quieter cafe or restaurant. So long as you're getting out and living life, it doesn't matter how many readjustments or alterations you feel you need to make to start getting this to work, as long as you start doing it. And then you have somewhere to keep building on. And I can guarantee you, you will absolutely be doing all of these things while still experiencing symptoms, but you're not doing them scared anymore. At this point, you know, you've accepted they exist within you and you're just living your life anyway. And I find sometimes it helps to challenge yourself in this space a little bit as well. So when I started revisiting those really triggering environments for myself, like the really big shopping centers where the ceilings were really high and generally they have, you know, really complex designs and, you know, inside on the roof, you probably know what I'm talking about. I would go into those environments, I would stand there and I would just look around and I would really get curious about what was triggering for me. So instead of going in there and, you know, letting my experience or my fearful reactions just get the better of me, I would sit there or I would stand there and I would look around and I would be like, okay, so I'm feeling really dizzy and, you know, it's gotten worse since I've walked in. So what is it? What is it that I'm looking at? And try and pinpoint it. Is it the noise? Is it the lights? Is it the roof? Is it the shops? Is it the people moving? Really get curious about what's triggering you. Because when you become focused on the curiosity surrounding your symptoms, there is no room for fear anymore. And then next time you will be able to go to a different environment and do the same thing and progress from there. So another level I feel that is extremely significant to the recovery process is the emotional level. And I'm not talking about how you feel about your symptoms in this case, but rather how you're feeling overall, generally on an emotional and mental level. And I feel this is something we as humans should be addressing all the time anyhow. But considering people with PPPD have overreactive brains and overstimulated nervous systems, our emotions need to be addressed as we would from experiencing any type of trauma, because your body is currently stuck in a high alert state, or your brain is stuck in a high alert state, which is your body's response to trauma. So addressing any unmet needs or traumas that you may have experienced throughout your life is in fact necessary. So at the moment, your body is holding on to everything, and your brain, being in its anxious state, is just feeding those signals back to the body. So to break that cycle, you need to start addressing whatever it is that your body is holding on to. So if you think about it this way, your brain holds your life's picture memories, whereas your body holds every emotion, every thought, and every feeling that you have ever experienced in your life. Now, that is a lot for your little body to carry. And we've always been told that talking about our problems helps with overcoming them. However, this isn't necessarily the case. There are a great deal of studies that now recognize that top-down therapy, so talking about your problems, isn't necessarily always the way, and that bottom-up therapy, so working with your body's feelings, is becoming such a widely recognized therapy because the results have been speaking for themselves. People who have been in talk therapy for years and years and not seeing changes are starting bottom-up therapy and are starting to see changes in their lives. So for some people, talking about their problems or their traumas in life is just making them relive the experiences. It's not actually changing how the body feels towards them. So bottom-up therapy is a way to help those traumas and those sensations and all of that built-up energy come to surface, so you're able to let it go. Now, I know some people will really stick their nose up at this idea and say, I didn't have any trauma, or there's nothing I feel I need to talk about. Well, I can tell you, you have experienced trauma in your life, and there are things that you probably have probably been holding on to. I'm not making any assumptions about people, but we have all experienced trauma to one degree or another. And often people have the idea that trauma means something really, really, really big and bad that has happened to someone. And while yes, some things can definitely be categorized at a higher level of trauma, it doesn't mean that your experiences are irrelevant. So, in other words, even if your experiences haven't been as traumatic in comparison to somebody else's experiences growing up, it doesn't mean that your experiences hasn't left a footprint in your body. So addressing any unmet needs or traumas will look differently for everyone. There's a few things that I did that I could recommend because they were beneficial for me and still currently are. I'm still working on myself in addressing childhood traumas and even traumas that I experienced prior to my onset of PPPD. It's definitely been a process that I think I will still be working on for a while, but I am definitely seeing the benefits from my work. So somatic tracking has been one of my saviors, not just for getting me to accept and coexist with my symptoms, but also because it brings attention to what's going on inside of your body, so you can again allow those sensations and feelings to exist, to do what they need to do, to be seen, to be recognized, and to eventually let them go. Journaling has been another therapy I have done on numerous occasions. Sometimes I will even burn the pages after I've written about my traumatic experiences, the traumatic experiences that I went through as a child that have stuck with me over the years. I've also put a photo in front of me and had a discussion with particular people that I felt I needed to talk to. And sometimes these people haven't been here anymore. So I felt this was the only way I could help myself pass through those traumas. But again, you could definitely even do that with people who are still here. I've done some inner child work, and to get into detail about that, it would take a while because it's a whole different other process in itself. So I'm just going to leave it as I have done some inner child work. What else have I done? I sing out loud when I feel I have a lot of built up energy stuck inside me. So I try and let it out by singing. And if I was being honest, I have even been in the car with no one around and just scream and cried. And that's another thing, crying. Crying isn't a bad thing. It's not a weakness. It's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about. Crying is a very good way for your body to let go of any built up energy and emotions. So if you're needing to cry, let it out. No good will come of it by storing it. So they are some of the things that I've done, and some I continue to do. Actually, a lot of them I still continue to do to address my traumas, or my life's traumas. And when it comes to addressing my unmet needs, these are things that sometimes continually change, but in general, I guess it's kind of the same things that I've been working on. So as humans, we have basic needs, which are there's psychological needs, there's safety and security needs, there's love and belonging needs, there is self-esteem needs, and there is self-actualization. But then you've got your other needs, like your standard ones, like the basic standard needs of food, water, air, and shelter. So my needs will be different to yours. So you need to be able to sit down and think about what are the needs in your life that aren't being addressed, aren't being met, or aren't being improved. So, and then once you figure that out, you need to cater with the appropriate therapy or activities or actions to address the appropriate needs. So, for example, I lack greatly in the safety and security need. I have for a number of years. It has been a very difficult thing that I've been working on. I still, till this day, I'm still working on that security need. It hasn't been an easy process, as I say, as I'm getting emotional. So I feel I'm continually putting measures in place to start gaining that sense of safety back and stability back. And look, it can really be anything. Your therapy will be based solely on what works for you in your life. So, for an example, if it is the need of security, you could look at connecting more with people that help you to feel safe and help you to feel secure. And it could also look like changing your thinking patterns or your perspectives of things or people. So if you are living with the thought that, that you have no friends, that nobody loves you, you don't belong anywhere, those sorts of negative thoughts, that negative feedback, that is really going to change your perspective of your world. So you need to be able to change that thought to something such as, I am loved. I make friends easily. I know it sounds really standard, like you've heard all of this sort of thing before, but what you say to yourself really does change your perception of your world. And like I said, this is something that I'm still working on today. It's not the easiest thing, I guess, to overcome. It's not the easiest thing to work with, but it can be done. I guess you just need to be consistent and not give up, just to keep practicing it. So just as an overview on the levels that we talked about, we discussed acceptance and how to overcome and help you to eliminate fear and doubt. We talked about somatic tracking and its benefits for helping the acceptance process. We've discussed the benefits of VRT and the importance of moving and exposure therapy. We've also talked about the emotional level, where we look at our life as a whole and address any unmet needs and trauma. So these levels won't necessarily apply to everyone, but I think generally speaking, these are the most common things that need to be addressed during the recovery process. And where you start will be dependent on where you're at. And I want to finish this episode saying this. Acknowledge your achievements, however big or small they are, because it's the little achievements that are the building blocks to help reach your end goal, which is recovered. So if 4 months ago you were hanging off walls and really struggling to walk, but today you're not, that is an achievement. Or if you're struggling with anything emotionally, but in 2 months' time you find you are feeling stronger and a little bit more in control, that is a win. So just because you might still be feeling symptoms, it doesn't mean all of your hard work and dedication isn't paying off. So don't give up. Trust the process and believe you can get better. Your thoughts during the recovery process matter, so do not underestimate them. The recovery process can be confronting, challenging, overwhelming, and lengthy. So there is no rule how long it's going to take. Everyone is absolutely different. But the key is to be consistent, because the reality is that your recovery requires your attention and your commitment, just like your job, just like school, or just like committing yourself to a pet. So keep building on your tools and experiences and don't give up. I hope you found this episode helpful, and thank you for listening. Until next time, take care, warriors.